Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. This is the second session of our webinar series around chatbots. My name is Jam Mayer, Chief Conversologist and your moderator for today's session, where we will actually dive into the next level of chatbot development and answer some questions around voice bots and digital humans. I'm sure some of you might not know what that is. We'll definitely know once our speaker has discussed it, obviously. But of course, there are a lot of or numerous abbreviations just tied to it. So our guest speaker, of course, is no other than Andy Darmani, founder of Ako.ai, who happens to be our tech partner in developing enterprise chatbots. So the little story here is I met Andy in one of the leading business groups here called New Zealand Leaders or NZ Leaders. And the funny thing is, he was actually presenting about chatbots as well in one of our meetings, and by fate, I will say by fate, we became seatmates and started chatting. So anyway, I'll let him talk about that a little bit later, probably if you've got more time. So Andy, by the way, comes from a background of solutions architect and infrastructure with qualifications in computer science and technology, and of course, business. He is definitely also an in-demand speaker and thought leader in this country, New Zealand's thriving developer community. I think the reason we partnered up is because he is passionate, I'm passionate, so he's a passionate technologist, I would say with international experience and highly regarded for both his vision and of course an ability to deliver practical and effective solutions. Anyway, we already know how great he is, right? We'd love to hear from him more, except me. Without further ado, I'd like to present Andy Darmani. Hi, Andy. Thank you for joining us.
Hey Jam, thanks for the lovely introduction. Um, I definitely learned few things about myself today. Thank you for that. I am really excited to work alongside Jam. As I said, as you can guess from the name Conversology, uh, Jam does a lot of work in chatbots and conversation designs, and I am passionate about technology. So we together work on delivering some high performing chatbots. So we will get straight into it then, Jam.
Yes, definitely. So we'll try. So the format is, yes, it is a webinar, but instead of just giving out slides and stuff, etc., we decided to do this a little bit differently. So we have a few questions, and Andy, of course, is going to present and answer those questions. Okay, so well, Andy, let's start off with sort of the basics, though I know the webinar says beyond the basics, but um, what is actually an AI chatbot? I mean, what does that mean?
Sure. So if you look at basically all the different channels users interact with, we are all used to things like making a phone call, sending out emails, obviously doing chat on a website on likes of Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, Kik, which is quite popular in United States. We use different interfaces, and now in last few years we have also seen a lot of voice enabled devices like Alexa, Microsoft Cortana, Google Home, and a lot coming up, like Samsung Bixby. So I guess what happened is, for a peer-to-peer messaging, we obviously are used to these channels quite a lot, and with chatbots, what we are trying to do is provide a chatting experience to the end users from the enterprise side. So basically, if you look 10 years ago, 80% of the conversations was on voice and only 20% were messages. And now it has changed totally. Voice has reduced and messages are being used quite a lot. So that's why enterprises are also trying to pick up that and provide the same experience to the end users. So as a user, they are on Facebook Messenger. They want to interact with enterprise, let's say a telecommunication company or a bank or an insurance company. And on the other end, um, there are chatbots which can obviously scale, which can provide a consistent response and which can also actually now engage and convert visitors into customers and leads. So I guess chatbots are basically trying are trying to use technologies available like artificial intelligence to understand what customer is saying and provide an awesome response back to them. Yeah, so that's what a chatbot is.
That's actually interesting that you mentioned that there was actually more voice before, and then now there's more text chatbots that's coming out. Wow. Okay. Anyway,
Yeah,
but yep, yep. Go ahead, Andy. Yep.
sure. No, that's exactly. I think it is also derived from the user experience. If you see, it was all about voice. Like 15 years ago, if I want to call my mate, I will pick up the phone and call him. Now, if I need to talk to my mate, I don't talk to him. Actually, I will send him a text message. So I guess just the usage of messaging has grown extensively, which is triggered also by you know messaging apps available like Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, and in enterprise we use Slack, Skype. So that has, I think, resulted in this trend quite a bit.
Yeah, and it's interesting. And do you think, just a follow-up question on that, is it because due to the change from voice and now everyone's getting used to chatting, is it based on because of generation as well? Because the younger people or the digital natives are more, I don't know, comfortable chatting or texting than picking up the phone, and using voice instead.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. My one of my friend was telling me like when he was driving, he has two girls. They were sitting back seat and they both text to each other rather than talking. So it is definitely a generation that uses text messages quite a lot. But I think also we cannot forget that now with technologies and use cases of IoT coming up, Internet of Things, we can start interacting with like of fridges in our house. I can tell my AC to switch on and off. I can switch on the light um, using voice commands. So voice is coming back too in quite a
Mm,
big way, specifically because a lot of these things basically we are trying to talk to, like a washing machine. They don't have screens to send a message or type. So I think voice will come too, but more to do with giving commands to likes of, yeah, again, fridges and switching off lights, air conditions and all that. So yeah, voice is growing, but probably in a different way, like than we are used to.
yep. No, that's good. I was hoping like the movies that I don't have to say switch on lights, I just have to clap, right? So
Yeah.
anyway, okay, let's move on. So here's another question for you. There's a lot of acronyms going around, and obviously, when I talk to our clients as well, I'm going, okay, this chatbot thing, there's a lot of chatter, so to speak, right? And there's so many acronyms. There's NLP, NLG, Luis, and LUIS. I don't even know if I pronounce it correct. Can you please help us understand a little bit more about all of
Yeah.
these things? Yes.
Sure. I think uh, I will try to explain it simply because actually it is simple. So the way the whole chatbots work is on the left of this screen, if you see, there is a conversational design. So one aspect of the chatbot is providing the interface, which could be again Facebook Messenger, could be a chat running on your website, or with voice, it could be likes of Alexa's where you are talking to an Alexa, Cortana. So you interact with enterprise if you like, or with the chatbot using one of these channels. So if you look, one important aspect is conversation design and channels, but the core of a chatbot, where all these acronyms come from, is actually the NLP platform usually, which stands for natural language processing. So if you look at a chatbot, or which is obviously trying to imitate what a human basically is capable of doing. So when two people have a conversation, somebody says, "What is the time today?" So the other person needs to understand the context in their brain and respond back. So what NLP does, which is quite a big part of it, is trying to extract meaning out of utterance. So if somebody says, "Can I have espresso?" So NLP can understand that language, English, and figure out what's happening within it. So what usually does is, if it is, "Can I have espresso?" Usually a NLP engine will understand it and score it. So it will say, "I think this, I'm 90% confident this person is trying to ask for a coffee." It might also say that I am 40% confident that this person is asking for a tea. So it's does this scoring, and then the highest scoring intent, in this case, this person is asking for a coffee, is picked up, and then the important information is basically extracted out of that phrase. So in this case, espresso is important. I know which coffee they want. I know they are asking for a coffee, and I also know which coffee they want. So the entity will be extracted, and then I can go ask them the next question: "Do you need any sugars?" Whereas if the person says, "Can I have a coffee?" I know this person is asking for a coffee, but they didn't tell me which coffee they want. So the next question the bot will ask is, "Which coffee can I get you?" So if you like, the two key elements of a chatbot are understanding the natural language, and the second big part of it is extracting the entities or the important information out of that particular phrase. Um, and of course, usually a conversation doesn't, it's usually not one question at a time. So when two people are having a conversation, it can last for half an hour, right? So that's where context management comes in a chatbot, where I know I'm having this conversation in context of taking a coffee order. So I need to, as a chatbot, understand the context so that I can ask the right questions. And when person says one sugar, I know they're asking for one sugar for this coffee. So there's kind of the NLP, which has these different components. And then the other part is obviously to do anything in a business sense, if you like. There is always integration with business systems. So if as a chatbot I've taken a coffee order, obviously I need to pass it to the barista. So I might have to integrate with the point of sale system at the cafe, let's say. So that's called the fulfillment. So if you, yeah, these acronyms are mostly around natural language processing, natural language generation. It is also called natural language understanding, NLU. And the LUIS particularly is a Microsoft product, which stands for Language Understanding Intelligence Service, which basically, this is one of the many services available where you pass a phrase. It's a very simple API. You pass a phrase, "Can I have espresso?" and it will return you back, "I'm 90% confident this is a coffee order." So now with the kind of technology development in this area, it has become so much easier to implement these chatbots, because you don't have to build your NLP. So yeah, you need to know what it is, but there are NLP engines available as services from people likes of Microsoft, IBM, and many others. Hope I didn't confuse you.
See, I couldn't have explained that better. It's excuse me. I just wanted to move on to your next slide, which I think is more around the user interface and stuff. Can you explain a little bit more about? I know you were just talking about the NLP and how the chatbot actually tries to understand, have that context, but how
Yeah.
does the UI elements or user interface elements, like as you shown here, the responses, the buttons, how does
Yeah.
that work as well?
So look, probably this is the most simpler aspect of a chatbot, and this is also the one which, as a normal user, we see every day when interacting with chatbots. So like when building a website, you need to figure out where to put an image, where to put a video, um, how you need to section your website. It's very similar to that. Um, in a chatbot, um there are only limited set of UI elements you can use, like buttons, um, multi-choice options. You can have links to external web pages. You can add images and videos. So this is the aspect where it is more to do with conversation design, where you need to figure out what elements I need to put where so that I can provide the best possible experience. So this is like the front end, and when user types something, the front end, this interface will send the message to likes of Luis, and then try to figure out what to say next. Um, yeah, so it's you can compare it with a website in simple terms.
Got it. Interesting. Okay. Yep. Definitely. And that's what we help with, obviously with Andy's team and stuff in terms of the front end. So there is a little bit of work, but that's another webinar, of course, by the way. Oh, Andy, just to let you know, you might be interested in joining as well.
Mhm.
There is a webinar maybe in the next few weeks or so, which Rue is going to conduct about humanizing and more on the UI elements such as this. So we
Amazing. I think this is, sorry, Jem, I just want to add that this is, I said from technical aspect, this is simpler, but obviously I cannot do it. So this is where this is most important aspect too, and this is where, building a chatbot personality and the actual conversation comes in. So it is beyond my, I don't know. I don't know how to do it, but this is important.
Yes, no, definitely. I totally agree. And of course, I'd love to talk more about that today, but let's do that in another webinar. Actually, Rue is going to be doing that in terms of humanizing the bots, so to speak. But definitely, definitely. Before we move on to the next question, Andy, Jeremy's asking, so is Luis, did I pronounce that correctly, or do you
Yeah,
say L-Y, Luis? Okay.
Luis, yeah.
You did mention it is from Microsoft. His question is, what are some comparable services from other companies?
Sure. So Microsoft has this solution called Lois. Actually, most of these companies acquired did some acquisitions. So Microsoft acquired Lois. Google have a platform called Google Dialogflow, which is a kind of competitive in that space. IBM got a solution called IBM Watson. Um, AWS got a solution called AWS Lex, LEX, and they also have a solution. Actually, yeah, Lex, which was also acquired, and and then there are many other companies who provide this solution as well, specifically to address a particular use case. So, just one example is a company called SoundHound, SOUNDHOUND. SoundHound are building NLP engines specifically to be used in cars. So they are working for likes of BMW, Mercedes. So there are these niche companies in particular areas, but in general, yeah, Louis, Google Dialogflow, IBM Watson, and Amazon Lex are the ones you will come across most of the time.
Awesome. So, Jeremy, I hope that answers your question. And we'd like to encourage the rest of the attendees who's in the room today. Thanks for joining us, by the way, and taking the time of your afternoon or morning, depends on where you're at, obviously, in the world. Okay, next question is, what is machine learning? What does that actually mean? I've heard that you're supposed to train a chatbot. So a chatbot needs a gym like us human beings, right? So,
Yeah.
yep, if you can explain, please, Andy.
Sure. Look, this is the aspect which I don't want to say is easy, because this is what we do, and I tell everybody what I do is very complex. But okay, so in a very, very simple terms, okay, um, if some of you are familiar with, a normal kind of programming language, or how the logics are written, is in kind of context of if then else. So I say if um, distance is 5 kilometers, do y. If distance is 10 kilometers, do z, so on and so forth. So most of the things are kind of the technology, or the things we interact with today are driven by kind of if then else logic. So with machine learning coming now, it's probably not just for chatbots, but it's having impact on number of other things like medicine and infrastructure, and it's impacting in a lot of areas. The core difference is, in a machine learning you don't have to write things like if this happens do next thing, if this happens do something else. You build a model, and then you train that model with some training data. So if I want to train a chatbot to answer my car rental questions, so I will train it to say, if somebody says when you want to pick the car, and somebody responds back tomorrow, then they can say tomorrow, they can say a date. I need to train with only like some training data, and then the model is supposed to learn itself and interpret everything else as well, which is around it. So that's where I said the kind of intent scoring comes in. So if I train a bot with 5 phrases, and then if somebody says that same thing in a different way, the machine learning model, which is natural language understanding in this case, is supposed to pick that up. So that's how a kind of machine learning works.
Hmm.
There are various models, but especially in natural language, again, you need to feed it with training data. So before you go live with the bot, you should try to put at least 10, 20 phrases for each intent, and then it will pick the rest. And then obviously you will see that when a bot is live and a lot of people are interacting with it, it will never be perfect from day one. You will always pick things that it didn't understand, and then you need to continue train it. Say next time if somebody says this phrase, they mean this intent. You continuously train it, and over a period of, depending upon how many people are interacting with it, it will get better and better. So that's what we call chatbot training.
Awesome. So, making a chatbot more intelligent. Are we supposed to start getting scared now? Is this more? Is this a Terminator type of chatbot? Um, yeah, and I think this your slide here shows, and of course you'll definitely be able to explain what this is. But can you just, what are your thoughts on this one? Identification, extraction, and of course validating, I should say, or validation.
Yeah. Hey, look, I think, yes, so chatbots can do a lot, depends upon how much you train them to do. And they can self-learn as well, but it's not like like it's still within the framework you train it on. So hopefully, if you train it with all the good things, it will do the same. But what I'm trying to probably say here is that to make a chatbot intelligent, like if somebody says, a bot will say, how can I help you? I would like to have a coffee, right? So what happens is people can say, respond back with things like, I need a coffee, or I need a cappuccino, or I need a trim cappuccino. Somebody can also say, I need a cappuccino with 1 sugar. So what you need to do is you need to train the bots to and understand the intent and extract the right entities out of it. So in this example, I'm showing like you have entities like coffee type, which could be cappuccino, flat white, espresso. You can have a milk type, regular, trim. You can have count of sugars, how many sugar that person wants. And then the bot needs to be intelligent enough to extract those entities. First,
Mm,
identify obviously that this is talking about sugar, extract them from the phrase, and then validate that, if somebody says, I want, you know, why sugars, you need to validate and say, sorry, tell me how many sugars you want. Why is not a number, something like that. So basically, you need to train the bot um, to pick up all these things and interact properly. Um, so that's what it means by entity identity identification, extraction, and validation.
no, it makes perfect sense. We do have a question from Jeremy, but before that, I guess another follow-up question, which the slide does show, is I guess, and this is the same conversation I have with our clients as well on the conversation design and the personality of a chatbot. So the human side of things is they think, or at least the starter ones, they say, oh, okay, just build a chatbot and that's it. But actually, it isn't. It continuously needs to be trained, as you mentioned earlier, with
Yeah.
more data, of course, more better and optimized. So this is actually a good model. But please talk us through this.
Sure. So basically, this shows you once a bot is live, users are interacting with it. You need to have these three stages always ongoing. One is Maya, how the bot is doing, how many people are interacting with it, are uh, people following the path that they are supposed to. Then you can analyze that, how many people are dropping off at which particular point in the conversation. And then the third important bit is based on all that data, you need to continuously optimize and retrain the bot. So I think one point, if I need to stress on here, is that you cannot leave a bot alone. So you have to continuously train and optimize it. Doesn't matter if it's in live or production for 1 year, 2 years, but you always need to be its side. You need to have proper KPIs for a bot. You need to monitor them, and you need to make sure it achieves that KPIs, because if it is left alone, it will actually damage your brand rather than giving a good, better experience.
Exactly, and I couldn't agree more. 100%, definitely. And again, because you are interacting with human beings, we are such a complicated creature
Yeah.
with different personalities, etc. So uh, it is continuously, again, it is a machine, and we need to train it. So poor bots, if we just leave them all. It reminds me of this movie. I can't for the life of me remember that, but I know I was in tears after. Anyway, I'm going. Okay, let's go. Before we move on to the next topic, I know there are some technologies in the process around it, but Jeremy is asking around training data. How can you acquire good training data, especially if your use case is niche?
So, yeah, so there is no straight answer to that. If your use case is niche, then you need to come up with the training data. So what we usually do is, if we are implementing a chatbot, either text messaging or a voice bot in a, let's say, a telecommunication service provider, we will look at their, we will look at their logs from last 6 months, pick up all these conversations, and then use that as the training data for the bots. So the data will come from within the organization you are trying to implement it, or at least from within that industry vertical. But definitely, this is something you need to get from um, from what you have from the historic conversation with your customers. In specific cases, let's say a hotel, you can reuse that data across hotels because most of the people ask questions in similar way. What is the checkout time? Do you have a cot if I'm bringing my baby? You can do that, but when it comes to niche, you have to spend time building your own data, or again, getting it from historic conversations.
Yeah, so it's basically sort of starting from scratch in a way.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's similar. So if I have to put in context of a human, if a new employees come and joins your organization and your organization is into some niche field, then obviously you need to spend a month training that employee before they can be productive. So yeah, if you think like that, it's same. So if you're bringing a chatbot in, you need to spend your month, maybe more, to train that bot properly before they can actually start interacting.
Cool. So awesome. And I encourage other attendees. We've got Ryan and Kenton in the room as well. And of course, okay, here I think is kind of similar or related. Please correct me if I'm wrong, of course. Andy, is the available technologies and the process. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I think probably, the one question asked earlier is about the kind of technologies available. So if you look at what you need to build a chatbot, obviously they needs to be built for a particular channel, which could be likes of Messenger or Alexa or Skype or your website. And in the middle, the big box is all, not all actually, few platforms that can help you do that. Like Microsoft got a particular framework called Microsoft Bot Framework. It's called now Azure Bot Framework. Microsoft Q&A Maker, Ako is our company. We have a platform. We have built Louis, Amazon Lex, IBM Watson, and quite a few others. So there are lots and lots and lots of platforms available, and I think that probably adds to a bit of confusion as well. Um, which is the right technology for you? But that's why we have mentioned that you need to spend time planning and picking the right technology, because with bots, if you are in you have started your journey with the bots, it's difficult to kind of switch to something else. So it's better to spend time planning right, and then obviously building right and continue to optimize. I think some tools on the right, I've mentioned Chatbase. It is an awesome actually tool for chatbot analytics. It provides you so much insight into what your customers are um, talking to you about. So you should consider, yeah, part of these components at least when building a chatbot.
So is chat based just for enterprise though? Because I know there are a lot of the small and medium sized type of platforms out there.
Yeah, that's right. So things like if you look at bot platform, I've mentioned here Bot Engine and FlowXO.
Mm.
Like these two tools come with their own analytics. They are not too advanced, but they have there's some analytics inbuilt. While Chatbase, you need to integrate it into your chatbot, spend some time configuring it. So it's more for enterprise, I will say. Um, but yeah, it's quite handy. But if you're building a small chatbot with like 100 interactions a week, for example, I will suggest just sticking with likes of Bot Engine, FlowX, so they give you enough information.
Cool. Awesome. That's very helpful. All right, moving on. Now that we've kind of know a little bit about the abbreviations and stuff, etc., what are the applications in business or let's say nonprofits? Let me just do that for AI chatbots. Do you have any examples?
Yeah, surely. So I guess if you look around, mostly where chatbots are used today or conversational AI is being used today is um, a lot in service desk automation. So if you look at within a large organization, I want to apply for a leave, or I want to check how do I do my expense claim, or how do I reset my password, how do I order an how do I get access to this particular application. So a lot of those things are being automated. Actually, a lot of bigger enterprises, they are starting with their internal service desk bots first before they go out to their users, because this is a good learning curve for them and they can experience how this whole thing works. Call center employee is a big thing. I personally think this is the area where it will have the biggest impact. When a call comes in, a bot can say, how can I help you, and have a good conversation with the customer right now today. So I think this is the area where, because nobody likes being in call center queues for sometime an hour, and then on the other end, enterprises can't afford to keep scaling the manpower they have. So I think this is where that's going to have the biggest impact. Besides that, in likes of conversational commerce, lead capture is more around selling, capturing leads. I think this is where there is still way to go, because chatbots are not as engaging as a human can be. So this is a growing area, but probably getting there. I think it like still way to go. And then another one is digital concierge. So this is, if you look at most of the um, let's say hotel chains, they are all experimenting with kind of digital humans who can help guests check in, ask questions like what's around to go, and basically help them around in a hotel. So these areas are one where we see most of the activity happening.
Awesome. And I do agree with having spent probably half of my career life, almost maybe just a quarter, around call center operations. I do understand. I think that's why my progression towards the years, and it does make sense, and I'm into this business as well, and around conversations and stuff is it's perfect. Totally agree that it will help around that industry and around that space. Yes, please carry on, Andy. Sorry.
Sure. Now, I just want to like on the call center specifically. If you look at New Zealand context, Vodafone New Zealand has started a program last year actually, and uh, they are targeting that 60% of the interactions will be handled by virtual agents by, I think, 2021 it is. So that's kind of the numbers we are talking about. Similarly, Spark is another telecommunication service provider in New Zealand, and their CEO had a statement in last year that October 2018, their chatbot IP handled, I think, same workload as 43 employees in a month. So it is huge, and I think there is no second way out of it. I think this is how it is going to happen. I think with specific in this area.
Yep, totally agree. So that's a lot of applications for sure. I mean, right now there's a lot of chatter around marketing and lead generation, which you've already mentioned, etc. But this is pretty much the bulk of, I would say, of the interaction. So how chatbots can be very beneficial, especially in the enterprise side of things.
Yeah,
Uh, let me. Okay, I think I'm just checking the time here. So we've got around 20-ish minutes left. So I'll move on to the next question. So what are your thoughts on the current state of voice bots? So let's move a little bit to the voice side of things.
sure. Look, uh, the base itself of voice devices is growing a lot. So, you can walk into a store, any electronic store, and like Alexa, um, Google Home. So these devices are growing a lot, and this is stats from last year when smart speakers were to reach 100 million. I don't know if it has happened. The report is not out yet, but I'm sure it is close.
Mm.
So there are two things there. One is actually probably three things. One is the devices like Alexa and Google Home, which are standalone devices. Then Microsoft's Cortana is something you can use from within Alexa or on your laptop. So you can enable Cortana in your Windows device and interact with it, ask when is my next appointment and all of that. And then on the phone, there are personal assistants available like Siri, Bixby from Samsung, Google Assistant. And then, as I mentioned, in IoT, with IoT coming, you can give commands to literally any device around you. So, with that happening, I guess the voice is going to be huge in terms of, especially in terms of bots, because that's where the development is happening. When all these devices, Siri, Alexas, you're talking to a bot, if you like. So, if you build a Alexa skill, this is using the Lex I mentioned. So, it is Amazon Lex. So, all of these devices are using natural language understanding, a chatbot kind of conversation designed to answer your questions. So I think this is going to be huge, and this is going to grow probably even faster than chatbots, because you can say in last 2 years already people are used to um, using these devices, and probably we don't even realize that we are talking to a bot. So I think this is going to be huge.
Yep, I'm excited about that. I mean, on a conversational design again on the front end side of things, it's now considering, the humor, not even just the humor, but the type of words or the language, the tone, etc. So it doesn't really just sound like it's a robot. And then I've heard and seen um, some of the groups that I've been into as well are part of us, and they're starting to find how they can put in some specific cultural nuances, etc. Because it is totally different if you're trying to make a joke, for example, right? And
Mhm.
American humor is different from someone from the UK, for example, right? So anyway, no, that's pretty interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
No,
I'm
it is.
excited. Hmm. Sorry, Andy, say that
Yeah,
again.
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, all right. Okay, now let's move on a little bit towards the highest end, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, if it is the highest end, which it's called the digital humans. Okay, now this is, as some would say, close to Terminator. I've mentioned that earlier as well, right? And that's just some of the chatter. That's why they're a little bit not so sure about chatbots because they're a little scary. So, what are digital humans? What do I mean, how are they different from the other chatbots? And of course, the uses. In case any examples you could provide, it would be great.
Sure. So I think if you look at like how we interact, we touched base on messaging chatbots, we touched on voice, but the one element which is missing is actually looking at a face, looking at the expressions, and looking at how a person is feeling and responding to you. I think that's the stage three of the chatbots, where you are actually interacting with the person, where you can see their expressions, and you can actually feel how they are feeling. So that's where a lot of advancement is happening. Actually, there is a digital human, the first digital human in Saudi Arabia to get a citizenship. So that's where it is getting to. So they have given citizenship to a digital human. I think she's called Sophie. And I saw Sophie talking and actually participating in an interview, and she was awesome. She could answer questions with very nice expressions. She answered all the questions from the reporters and the public. You can look at the YouTube video. And then she ended that conversation by asking for investment. So it was an investment forum, and she said, "Hey, look, you have seen how I am today and what are my capabilities. So I'm looking for investment." So if anybody of if anyone is keen to invest in me, get more, get better. So this is this is stage three, and I think luckily New Zealand is the country where a lot is happening in this space. We have two startups which are growing quickly, who gained a lot of investment. One is called Soul Machines, and another is called Face Me. So these two organizations, startups in New Zealand, are working just on basically the 3D faces, adding the emotional intelligence and visual and auditory systems. And look, with these ones, these they are very separate from actually natural language. So these this whole subject is about creating the expressions, the face, the image, and then in the background they also use the natural language engines we spoke about, likes of Louis or Dialogflow, or you can build your own. But the main thing is this expression. And if you look at the use cases around, I'm sure all the countries are the same. All major banks in New Zealand and Australia are um, coming up with their own digital humans. ASB got one, ANZ got one, and now telecommunication service providers have started with this journey too. Like Vodafone New Zealand are implementing one, and it's same trend across the globe. So if I see, 2 years from now, or maybe a little more, they will come into mainstream. So when you go to a branch, you will be talking to this assistant, or if you are going to your let's say ASB website, these digital humans will be there talking to you. So I guess this is the next evolution from chatbots, and again, a lot and lot and lot of research is going into this area. And I've seen some of these working; they they look awesome, and the expressions are real. So yeah, I think they we are just getting there where humans will kind of start doing a lot.
Yep. And I mean, I personally had the chance to see Soul Machines demo and how it works in a few conferences and events, and of course, Face Me as well. So it's Soul Machines is a little creepy, but really mind blowing, so to speak.
Yeah,
The technology behind it, but of course, anyway. No, I'm also excited about the digital humans and how it interacts and stuff. And of course, I mean, we can't talk about it right now because we don't have enough time. But there were, as soon as if correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's Josie from ASB, right? I think
right.
Josie.
That's right, Jyoti.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So Josie and I know I read a few articles around, I think in the Herald, and they were just talking about some. I mean, of course, it's mixed feedback. You know, some hate it, some loved it. That's
yeah.
technology. Anyway, there is just a few more before we end. There is actually another question from Andrew. But just around, since we're talking about emotions and digital humans, I think this is the best time to ask this question. It says, he's asking, what potential is there for recognizing or even responding appropriately? And I think it has started, as you mentioned, to the emotional state of a user. So, can NLP and intent recognition drive some degree of emotional matching? So, this is about matching now. Or is this what the digital humans are actually doing right now?
Yeah. So no, that's an awesome question actually. So look, this is a field that is evolving a lot, but I can tell you that how generally this thing is available. So with like of Microsoft Louis, when you pass it a phrase, it actually tells you I'm 90% confident this person is asking for a coffee, and I am also scoring this person out of 100 or where they are emotionally. So 100 points means they are extremely happy, and 0 means they are angry or sad. So basically, today, if you use Lois and you have to do one checkbox, it will tell you uh, how this person is emotionally, at which point they are on. and then you can respond appropriately. So if you see that score is 10 out of 100, you know person is angry, and then the bot can take a different tone or take them to a different pathway or maybe transfer it to a real person. So this is already happening. And when it comes to digital humans, then digital humans also look at the face expression. So they can also look at your face expressions and then bring that into the picture as well. And again, score you even better. So again, scoring is based on what you have written, tone of your voice, and then your face. So if you combine these three things, what you have said, in which tone you have said, and how your face is looking, it's very accurately you can figure out the emotional state of that person. So yeah, I think we are probably getting there very fast. So it will be very, very accurate in probably, months or couple years to come.
Awesome. So exciting stuff. Okay, I have one last question. And of course, before I do ask that, for those who are here, again, thank you so much for joining us. Jeremy did ask any chance we can get a copy of the slides. Yes, we will actually provide you a recording as well. You'll get that through email. So yeah, so you'll get that no problem, because I know there's so much valuable information and you can refer back to it at your own time. Now, so what is the state, Andy, right now here in New Zealand when it comes to AI chatbot, the industry, what's going on? And if you have any idea in terms of pricing and capability, in terms of developing chatbots, any thoughts about that?
Yeah, look, I can talk about general state of AI in New Zealand. So I think been going like it's being invested in a lot from all sectors. So this is actually an awesome map AI Forum of New Zealand did. So to just tell you where AI is in New Zealand, there is a AI Forum, um, which is kind of chaired by a gentleman called Ben Reed, and it's a wonderful team who are working through different aspects of AI, including ethics around AI. They are trying to build that framework. They are trying to keep everybody together. And kind of this particular map shows you what public sector is doing in AI, what professional service providers are engaged in this, what research is happening, what platform capabilities are. So just by you won't be able to read all the names, but just by seeing the number of logos there, you will know that how much activity is happening in New Zealand. So if I compare to, as I said, likes of Soul Machines are and Face Me are leading in the world actually when it comes to digital humans. So that's happening right in New Zealand. There are also messaging chatbot platforms being developed. One is Embed, another one is Journey. So there are quite a few companies. Ako AI, of course, which I represent, we also build a chatbot platform. So there is a lot happening in New Zealand, especially when it comes to enterprise space. I still feel that we don't have enough engagement or enough companies um, putting effort in kind of small to medium uh, customer range, but there is definitely a lot of activity in enterprise. And like, so even Jam, looking at your organization Conversology, who are focusing on just designing a good conversation, giving a good personality to the bot, selecting the right tone. So lot of importance is given to all these elements, and there are organizations across New Zealand and doing in technology, conversation design, navigation flows, platforms, research. So yeah, I think we are up there, and will continue to grow.
And it's very, very exciting to be part of it, isn't it, Andy?
It is. It is absolutely.
Definitely. I mean, the team and I are very, very excited about this. All right. Well, we only have 5 minutes left, and I am opening up the floor to the audience. If there are any other questions that Andy hasn't given and stuff, And while we wait, of course, there you go. If you're wondering, if you're not familiar who Andy is and what ACO is all about and what Conversology is all about, well, this is his company. It was interesting because AKO, or the word ACO, and I pronounce it differently in another language, and this was another conversation we had at Andy, and then I did. It's like, ooh, interesting. So it's really cool. With, of course, are there names for these? What do you call them? Your mascots?
Yeah, they are actually. So what? Yeah, we developed it as mascots, and to be honest, we use them quite a bit in as avatars for a chatbot. So when we give a personality, a name to a bot, if it is a quick chatbot, most of the enterprises like to build their own avatars, but a lot of them end up picking one of these four.
Yeah.
So yeah, they are quite handy actually. I built it just to put on this slide, but they've been used quite a bit.
No, they're cute. They're cute. I'd love to know their names. if if you don't have names, we can talk.
Yeah, definitely the one from the left is Semi.
Okay.
Others call them differently in different websites.
Ah, interesting, interesting. Okay, seems we don't have any more questions. Um, Thank you so much, Andy, for joining us today. Very, very valuable information for sure.
My
And
pleasure.
yeah, and this isn't going to be the last time. I know we have another. We'll have more live webinars on the same topic. So for those who are listening right now, if you've got anyone in your network or in your organization that you think should, it is beneficial to actually join us for the next one, then please, we'll give you the link as well. And we do have another topic. I think it's going to be sometime March, if I'm not mistaken, right? We'll have Andy back. Now, before we leave, we would really be interested. I mean, if you're interested in for Andy and myself to actually engage with you and just have sort of a discovery meeting. I call it a discovery meeting. Just to answer more of your questions, etc. Just have a cup of coffee or tea, because I don't drink coffee, so tea. About 30 minutes or maybe an hour of your time. We want to know more about your business and how Andy and myself and the teams that we've got behind us to help you create that chatbot that's perfect, a good solution for your organization. There is actually, I just put up a little link, well, sort of a button. It says book meeting. So that's just going to go through a calendar, and then I will respond to you. This is going to go straight with me. And then obviously Andy and I will coordinate and confirm the meeting. So we would love, it doesn't have to be face-to-face. If you're not in Auckland, because both of us are based in Auckland, we don't mind doing it online as well. All right. Anything else before we end the webinar, Andy?
I think it's been awesome. Yeah, I think we have covered everything, and yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Okay, all right. Thanks, everyone. Thank you. And we will see you again next time in the next session of our webinar series around chatbots. Have a good day,
Thank you
everyone.
all. Bye.